This documentary deals with the issues of human trafficking and contains intense scenes that may distress some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. You may not believe it, but human trafficking is a worldwide industry. So big, in fact, that it generates over $32 billion annually.
Is there any part of the world or any particular project that's really making progress in this fight? It's so important to highlight those individual, personal stories, isn't it? Because when you look at the whole problem and look at the statistics, it sometimes just feels overwhelming.
In 1863, the Emancipation Proclamation freed an estimated 500,000 slaves. Yet sadly, as many as 36 million people remain enslaved today, all over the world. These people are victims of human trafficking. Don't be fooled by the name. Human trafficking is modern-day slavery. According to the US government, human trafficking is defined as the act of recruiting, harboring, and transporting people against their will, most commonly for the purpose of sexual slavery or commercial sexual exploitation for the traffickers. As you can see, the world hotspot for human trafficking is Southeast Asia, primarily in countries such as Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, and Vietnam. People from these areas are often trafficked both within their own countries and to neighbouring countries. Eastern Europe is the next big hotspot, with people from Russia and the Ukraine most affected. You can also see the large number of people trafficked from Mexico across the United States border. In Australia, human trafficking is a very real problem. In 2012, a man was charged in trafficking 3 young girls under the age of 18 to Australia to work in a Sydney brothel with student visas. These girls did not know they were being trafficked until they were picked up from the airport. If found guilty, he could get a maximum jail term of 25 years. Victims of human trafficking have been identified in 152 different citizenships and 124 countries across the world. At least 510 trafficking flows have been detected. Statistics show that 72% of convicted traffickers are men and 28% are women. 49% of detected victims are adult women, and 33% of detected victims are children, which is a 5% increase compared to the 2007 to 2010 period. More recently, since 2003, there have been 324 investigations into human trafficking in Australia. This has led to 207 victims, but this is only the tip of the iceberg. 148 women are currently in a support program for those trafficked into the sex industry. 119 were discovered in New South Wales alone. Human trafficking is a worldwide industry that generates approximately $32 billion annually. Human trafficking is modern-day slavery, and despite the 1863 Emancipation Proclamation freeing around 500,000 slaves, sadly over 36 million people still remain enslaved today, all over the world. There is no stereotype for people who are trafficked, as this epidemic impacts people of all sex, age, and ethnicity. Men are often trafficked and forced to work in hard labour jobs, while children are often moved into labour positions in the textile, agriculture, and fishing industries. Women and girls are typically trafficked into the commercial sex industry, including, but not limited to, prostitution and other forms of sexual exploitation. There are many statistics on people who have been trafficked in the world. Many people are not aware that a kidnapped person who becomes enslaved is also a victim of human trafficking. Although there are a number of trafficked people who have been rescued or freed, sadly the large percentage of these people are murdered by their captors or who they are sold to, when they are no longer useful, or they will very often commit suicide to escape the horror of the situation that they are in. There are around 300,000 women and children that die annually working in the sex industry. Women and children from as early as 11 years old are held prisoner. These women who are trafficked are forced into having sex around 20 times a day. These victims are forced to perform sex acts and undergo physical and mental abuse, which often leads to alcoholism, drug addiction, and sometimes death. Sadly, the numbers are rising, and there are more and more people sold into slavery every year. Most governments in the region ignore the issues or do not make an effort to prevent human trafficking. Unless awareness is raised, these governments and our own will continue to ignore the problem. You can help by learning about the issues and pressuring governments into action. As a result of some media attention to the issue of human trafficking, many Hollywood and global film studios and production companies are making money on films and documentaries that reflect this terrible subject matter. While they are bringing to light the issues, they are sometimes making them purely with profit in mind. Some films that have followed this theme include Borderline,